Welcome to a new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. I always say that one of the hazards of becoming conscious, one of the hazards of self-growth and evolution and waking up is that you look at your past and realize what a total unconscious fool you were. And that brings up guilt, remorse, and a lot of self-blame. Yes, ignorance is bliss in many ways, and waking up brings with it the need to take accountability for all our past mistakes. How do we undo all the mistakes we already did? How do we go back in time and fix it with our children? You know, my daughter is 21 years old right now, and I cannot tell you how many visions come to me at night about how when she was a little girl, I said the wrong thing then, and how when she was crying when she was 12 years old, I ignored her, and how when she was 17 and she came to me with a problem, I judged her. Listen, the truth is we've all made terrible mistakes. And the conscious parent isn't one who seeks to be perfect. The conscious parent is one who realizes that making mistakes is part of the journey, and it's really about growing from these mistakes that makes one conscious. Coming up next, a mother who's had a lot of issues with food, and now she sees her own 16-year-old son struggling with the same issues. Joining me now is Jennifer. She's been struggling with her 16-year-old son's anxiety, depression, and eating disorder. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Shefali. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us, what is the core struggle?
So Matthew has ADHD, and kids that are on the spectrum like this tend to have an eating disorder that can be common called ARFID. It's avoidant restrictive intake food disorder. So it's nothing with body image. It's really that he has a fear of trying new foods. And through starting the age of 3 and currently at 16, they slowly start to restrict their foods. They avoid certain foods. They have categories of safe foods. And through my own journey of understanding my own eating issues, I guess I would say, I've struggled with food my whole life as well. I've used it as a coping, a vice since I was very young, and my own dieting, up and down through all the years, I realized that also is avoidant, restrictive eating. And I just feel like there's a deep pattern playing out here with my son and myself. He was my awakener. He was that hard child that got me to your work about 10 years ago. And through working with one of your advisors, she's really helped me to unravel a pattern of this almost an emotional addiction of things needing to be hard. And so I have a really hard time receiving things good. Even now, to the point of my food, I can't even, I'm like angry at food. I'm so tired of food.
Yes.
I can't even receive good food. So now I feel like I'm rebelling, and just this is the heaviest I've been. I feel a little out of control. And, it's still playing out for my son. He's down to probably 4 foods that he eats, the same foods for years and years.
I hear you. So take us back to his early childhood and the Jennifer, the mother you used to be back then. Talk about your anxieties back then, because underlying any eating disorder is a need for control. And underlying a need for control is always fear, right? I always tell people the reason we're so controlling is because we're really masking an unrelenting, unforgiving anxiety that is eating us from the inside. And then on the outside, it looks like OCD, or it looks like super control, or helicoptering, or dieting, restricting our food or our enjoyment. So tell us about your anxieties as a young mother, because that's what he probably began to absorb into his subconscious.
Yes. And I think through going through your course, I have really realized the depth of my anxiety. I never really knew that my state of my nervous system was in fight or flight all the time. Like, this is where my body feels normal. And I was trying to fix Matthew, control Matthew through all the diagnosis from age 2, who was autistic, to nonverbal, to OCD, to sensory processing, like the labels. And I was trying to get Matthew to fit in a box, belong.
Yes.
What was his future going to be like? Who was going to be his friends? What was he going to eat? How was he ever going to eat?
And when our anxiety is on overdrive, right? So it shows up in this fixing mode, controlling mode, restricting, allowing. It's everything is being put into a box and checklisted. And so that energy of high, your anxious level was so high that it's like a tuning fork. Our children pick it up and begin to vibrate at that level as well. So the central message that your child received, even just energetically, like tuning fork level, was that this world is an unsafe place. Man, this world is scary. I don't know what I need to do, but I need to super control what I can. And what can a child control? Only two things really: their feeding and their elimination. Did he ever have any elimination issues like constipation?
Oh my goodness, yes. We had poop prizes. He had a fear of going to the bathroom, poop
Yes.
on the toilet. And he was in wearing pull-ups for a long time with bedwetting later. And he got over it. But yes, that was an abnormal long challenge as well.
Yeah, but it's not right. It's not abnormal. It's actually very normal. For everyone listening, we label our children as abnormal very quickly. I promise you, he was really normal, reacting to his anxiety in the most intelligent way as a young little toddler. He doesn't have the words. He doesn't know what on earth has hit him, right? Just when our children come out of the womb, they're like, oh, what on earth is this, right? And then they have the anxious parents permeating their psyche. So your child responded normally to a high level of maternal anxiety, and maybe even your partner had anxiety. So I don't want you to shame yourself, but I also don't want you to label him. And children, like I said, typically will find the little things they can control. And they realize quickly, I can control my eating and my pooping. And that's what he did. From a young age, he was trying to master control in a very anxious environment. So you now, for a moment, can make a bridge to your childhood, right? You too did something very normal. You were also mastering control in an anxious environment. So in a few words, talk about your early childhood environment.
Yes, what I have come to understand through coaching is that I have no memories of my childhood, which I understand now is the memory, is the trauma.
Yes.
I was passed and my mom had to go back to work. So at 6 weeks old, I was in a daycare. And I can only imagine now what was happening to me as a young baby, being passed around, no attachment to my mom, feeling like abandoned, lost, unregulated,
Yes.
so anxious. And
Yes.
this has been the story for me.
Yes.
That's played out.
Yes, I want every listener to realize, if you too out there are wondering why you have no memories from your childhood and you're confused about it, and maybe you feel that maybe that meant everything was fine, it's actually quite the opposite. When our memories are not integrated, and I don't mean that you have to have a memory about every week of your early childhood, but when you don't have some core memories of connection, of even fear, of being taken care of being soothed, that dissociation occurs because the young child is adapting, is coping by ejecting from the body. So that dissociation is a very normal response to high anxiety, to a traumatic disconnection. And you know, Jennifer, so many of us mothers, especially in the Western world, feel like it's our job to go out and get a job, right? And they feel so much pressure. No doubt your mother was one of them. And then what happens to our children? Our children, like you said, get passed around like parcels, and they do not form that core, deep connection, that attachment to an early maternal figure. It could be in the form of a male, but it needs to be caregiving, nourishing, nurturing. So go ahead. So then in your childhood, in your teenagehood, do you remember this anxiety? And did you realize that you were creating this equation, more anxiety, more control, let me control what I eat? Do you remember subconsciously creating that decision in your mind?
No, I did never saw the correlation between anxiety and control. My anxiety and my reason, well, maybe so, I was controlling how I appeared on the outside.
Yes.
So there, I guess I was controlling the perception of people of me so I would belong and not feel so out of place.
Yes. And how did you control the perception? Because I think there's so many people listening right now that are going to identify. They may not do it exactly like you are doing it, Jennifer, but all of us, to some degree or the other, had some unconsciousness in our childhood that we began to mask, right? I talk about the masks we wear, the ego masks. So what was your mask that you wore to manage your uncontrollable anxiety?
I was the classic good girl, peacemaker, don't make waves, don't have conflict. Let my brother be the one that gets in trouble. I am the only granddaughter. The image of being the only girl, the pressure was high. And I see that clearly now, but even just my anxiety was so high that when I was young, my brother needed to walk me through the different schools I would go to when I was going to be changing schools. I had so much fear of the unknown.
Yes.
That for me has been the ultimate, this fear of the unknown.
Yes.
And when Matthew came in and all these diagnoses were being told to me, the fear of the unknown was so great because it wasn't this illusion of what I thought having a baby was going to be and all these things. So I feel that anxiety is just, it's gotten worse in my 40s. I'm almost 50. And I've been seeking a lot of support and help.
So here's what we can begin to do. And I know you're working on yourself, but I'm going to give some takeaways, right, that you can work toward. So number one, you need to, because he's 16 years old, I think you need to first come clean. I think he needs to know how you have been suffering this anxiety. I think it's time for you to take down your mask of perfection, persona of control, and tell him, oh my goodness, I finally realized what I have been struggling with. You know why I say this? Because he's been struggling with the same thing and he doesn't have words. And you now, because of the work you're doing, I know you're in my coaching institute, you have been unraveling, deconstructing, and putting a label to your inner chaos, and you feel relieved now. That's what I've been doing. He needs to know what he's been doing. He doesn't have an eating disorder per se. He has incurable, unrelenting, punishing anxiety that he's trying to manage. Therefore, he's not abnormal. He is normal. And he needs to put it together like a jigsaw piece coming together. And I think he's 16. He can handle it. I think mom needs to be vulnerable. You need to tell him, oh my goodness, this is the work I've been doing. I have this issue and I think I've passed it on to you. And it's anxiety. And now I realize that I haven't been eating all this amazing food. And like a fool, I've been missing out. And then is the real work, which is you have to embody a new energy around your child. You have to show that you are being brave and you're going to put a food a week. I would say every day, but I know that's too much, but every day you're going to try out a new food that you've never tried and embody the risk-taking and show him that you are fine. But guess what? You're going to do this without telling him a word. You're just going to embody it. Many parents think that they need to communicate every single change they're making. Look, I didn't hit you. Look, I didn't yell. Look, I didn't curse at you. Look, I'm not blaming you anymore. No, we don't have to give a weather report to our children on how we are doing psychologically. We have to embody the change. We have to become it. And when they see, holy cow, she's not stressing out anymore. The dishes are lying dirty. She's not going nuts. She's eating that strange looking food and she's okay. And you're just going to chatter through it and laugh through it and be it, versus tell them that you're going to do it. Tell them that, see, I'm doing it. No, that's still anxiety. That's still control. You have to embody now a zest for life, a zest for your body, and a zest for yourself. And it's that zest that is the opposite of restriction, control, panic, phobia, right? Now, how does the mother move from one end to the other end? She does it slowly. You don't have to do it in a perfect way because perfection is what's got you here in the first place. So your desire for control now needs to be flipped to great compassion and self-acceptance. So it's almost like, damn, I'm so anxious. I'm looking at the dishes, Matthew, but I'm trying to be chill about it. But man, this inner beast is getting to me and I think I need to go do it now. When you talk about your madness, the children begin to realize, oh, I'm not crazy. She's not acting crazy because of me. She's just battling her own demons. And I think talking about it, bringing it out into the open, bringing the skeletons out is the most healing paradigm to enter. Now, as I say this, what's coming up for you?
Well, I have done a lot of conversation with Matthew, and a funny example is he has a new girlfriend. And with my own history, I'm very aware of girlfriends at this age. Boyfriend at my age was very traumatizing. And he asked me to go do something yesterday with her. I had a moment and I told him, this is my own irrational anxiety. This is not about you. So yes, the answer is yes. He's been pushing me through my anxiety through girlfriend examples. And so when you talk about the zest, that really resonates. I have such a bad energy around food because food has just been, I'm going to say it, hard. This hard correlation to food with Matthew, with myself, it's just been hard. And so that I feel like is the work now that I'm seeing is how do I create this almost joy for food? It doesn't have to be hard.
Yes.
I can feel that feels like a lot of work.
Give me a food that you ordinarily would not go toward. Should we say chocolate cake, ice cream?
Well, the thing now is I'm eating everything. So I have gone, the pendulum has swung. I'm eating everything and I've gained so much weight in the last year. This is now I feel like I've swung the other direction and I'm so out of control that I can't even get myself to want to eat something, quote, healthy because it almost feels like I'm angry to even give myself something good.
It's like you're removing all your anger about being controlled at food. It's like food has power like your parents did. You're completely being controlled by food as if they are the controlling parent, as if food is the controlling parent. And then you're angry now, and then you're consuming food as if it's the parent that you're rebelling against. So this is where you have to do the work. This is where you have to move deeper into and really understand that your rebelling or giving into food is your replacement of your feelings with your parents, right? You're using food, and so is Matthew. And as you go through the coaching institute that you are in with me, and you go through your own personal coaching, this is the focus. It's not the food, right? You've made food a human relationship. And so many of us do this. We are dependent on food like we were dependent on our parents. We restrict from food as if we're controlling it, like rebelling against our parents. You have animated food, but food is neutral. And you can't see that yet, but you will. You are on your way and you are on your journey. So many of us treat food as a surrogate parent, and we remove all our issues around our parenting to food. Food is neutral. Food is just fuel. Food is absolutely zero energy, zero charge, except, of course, there's some healthier foods and non-healthier foods, but that's it. But for you, as I say this, you must be thinking, oh my goodness, food is everything to me. And it's everything to your son. Although he's restricting, guess what? It is paramount in his psychology. And we're going to now undo it through mommy's empowerment. As you heal and do the real work around your early childhood, food will become more and more neutral. So this is the direction you have to go toward. And I know you will, and you're already doing the work. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing so beautifully. I think it's going to help so many people. You know, honestly, you've helped me. So I appreciate what you've shared. So I'm just so excited that so many people will learn from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I so appreciate this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jennifer. Bye. That is so hard. Eating issues, so many of us can relate to that, and how our anxiety around food shows up in our lives. Coming up, a mother of 3 adult children, she's heartbroken because she's lost connection with them, and it's something that she never imagined would happen. Connecting with our children is one of our fundamental goals as parents, and it hurts us so much when we feel disconnected to them, no matter how old they are. Joining me now is Mickey. She has 2 adult daughters in their 30s, and she's stressed out because they're not connecting as they once used to, and she never imagined this would happen. Welcome, Mickey. Tell us your story a little bit.
Thank you. I went through a terrible divorce about 18 years ago. I was pretty much left alone to raise 3 teenage daughters. So I felt that all these years I've done the best that I could. I needed to get them through college, which I did. They all have incredible careers. But recently, I was going to visit one of my daughters in New York, and I told her when I was coming. I guess I should say I gave her a ballpark of a time I was coming. She said, I need specific dates. That is my boundary. I need to know exactly when you're coming. I was having my car repaired, and it took longer than I thought, but then I let her know I'm coming this Saturday, because I will be there. And then I never heard anything from her. And since that has transpired, then I was in Indiana at that time, but now I am back in California, which is where I'm from. And I met with my youngest daughter, and I had not seen her because I had been in Indiana, and she just went off on me about my life. And that I have lived with my daughter, I have lived with my sister in an effort to just financially, if they needed me, or to just be able to help them. But she has felt that I did not provide a home for her.
Right now, you're living with one of your other daughters. You have 3 adult daughters, and you're living with one of them. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm living with my oldest one, and she is estranged from the other 2.
Okay, so you're living with the oldest daughter. You feel connected to the oldest daughter, yes?
Somewhat. She has been diagnosed with ADHD the last few years because her daughter has it, and her daughter has a very severe case.
Okay.
So it gets quite volatile, and I felt that living here too was a buffer between her and my granddaughter.
Okay, now why do you think your other 2 daughters could be so upset with you? Now, I know sometimes for many of us parents and for those listening, we sometimes get so confounded by our children's rageful reactions to us, by their quote unquote boundaries or their walls, right? We perceive it as a wall. And we really don't know why. And it hurts us because in our eyes, we think we've done the world for them, but they somehow seem to think that they have had the short end of the stick. I mean, and then we are just flabbergasted, like, what the hell? So imagine if you were in their shoes, and I know this is taking a leap, but the only way we can bridge an understanding between 2 parties is to go to the other side's viewpoint and try to understand it from their side. No matter how difficult it is, we have to try to figure out what they are feeling. This is for any 2 warring factions. So let's go to their side. Why do you think, in your remotest fantasy, are they upset with you?
I think the main reason is, especially for my youngest daughter, is that I did not provide her a safe place. I didn't provide her a home. When she would come home from college, she would come home to my oldest daughter's house, which is where I lived. And they had a good relationship most of the time. But I think that's the main reason. The other reason, I think, is maybe they feel disappointed that I didn't do enough. I didn't provide them that home. maybe I should have been doing more with my life. I
Okay.
did provide childcare for my daughter, which has now allowed her to have an incredible career. But at the same time, I think I've just been stuck. And I think that that's a big problem.
I do think that that's what you think is why they are upset with you. And many of us parents or humans think, the reason why the other person is upset with me is because I didn't do enough, or I didn't give them the right food or the right house. I can tell you, for children especially, it's not the house. It's not the things. It's not even the number of hours you spent. It is something more emotional. There's something disconnected in their feeling about you. They're feeling that you're not present, not connected, not understanding. Because children, if they do not have the mansion or do not have the fancy cars, that's not the reason why they turn away from us. They turn away from us because they feel as if we have turned them away in some manner. So let me ask you, in all the years that you were trying to manage and doing such an amazing job in terms of all the chores and the tasks and the to-do lists, do you feel you were disconnected? Do you feel you were out of your own body and in a trauma response and not fully present?
Yes. But I didn't know it in all these years. That was the case.
Okay, so let's go a little deeper because we get defensive, right? So you just got defensive in a moment. You're like, yes, but I hear you. Listen, I'm on your team. I get how hard single parenting is. If you didn't care, you wouldn't even be here with me right now. And all parents need to understand that they are doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they have. No judgment. So go deeper. You don't have to defend it. So you feel you were emotionally disconnected and not very present. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I'm going to describe it the way that my youngest daughter has described it. She felt that I was lost.
Yes.
And that I think that I wasn't myself, that I'm just no longer maybe the person that I used to be. The divorce was quite traumatic.
Can you share how you expressed that lostness, how you expressed the trauma, the anxiety? Were you eating too much? Were you drinking? Were you away too much? Were you just avoiding them? How did it show up? Because that's really important.
See, in one sense, it doesn't make any sense because my middle daughter, I'm extremely close to. We talked about everything. So I don't feel like I was disconnected from her. But my youngest daughter, I think there was a wall there. I think she put one up, and I think I did as well.
Right. I understand sometimes we can't figure it out. But the fact that our children feel like they cannot connect to us means they are missing something. And I know in your logical brain, you can't figure it out. And this is so common. So many of us parents think we're doing it right. But I think that's your block. I think, they're telling you you're blocked and lost. I think we're seeing it right here, right now. You're lost to the reason why. You're blocked from why is it that your two children are creating this boundary. So when people create a boundary, it's not because they don't like the other person. It's not even that they don't love the other person. It's because that other person is not seeing them and valuing them. So you're perceiving it as if they are rejecting you, but really they are feeling rejected. So again, I'm going to ask you, when your daughter in New York did not see you, or when this other child tells you that, mommy, you were lost, mommy, you were not there, how do you respond? Because that is so important. When our children tell us through verbal or nonverbal means that they are upset with us, how do we respond? So if you can be really vulnerable and tell us, how did you respond to your New York daughter when she did not write back that she could see you on Saturday, for example?
Well, we have never had a conversation.
Right.
Since that happened. We did not, she's come to California. She did not see me. They did not see me at Christmas.
I understand what she didn't do, but what did you do or not do?
I have offered to do therapy with them in any form, to talk, to get together. I feel the therapy is something that we really need. I don't think I'm going to get through it without that. But there was no response to that from either daughter.
Okay, and you've offered it to both daughters.
Yes.
Have you communicated to both daughters that it's clear that they feel hurt by you and you are so sorry for all the ways you have unknowingly hurt them?
Yes, I have apologized multiple times that I'm sorry. I understand what happened, that you didn't feel safe. You didn't feel like you had a home. Oh, we need to work on this, but they're not willing to go there.
That's so strange. I mean, normally children typically melt if the parent shows enough remorse. And that must be so painful for you then.
Yes, because now I don't know what to do.
Yes.
My daughter in New York does therapy herself. My daughter that lives here, I don't think that she does, but I know that she needs it. She's had other traumas in her life, but yeah, I'm just at a loss. You don't know what to do.
Yes. So the best things we can do are, number one, show our vulnerability. Tell our children that we miss them, we love them. I understand that I've hurt you. I'm here to apologize till the cows come home. I'm here to make amends anytime you're ready. We do that consistently. So maybe once a month. But they are adults, so we can't do more than that. And then the next thing we do is we go for therapy or coaching or self-growth ourselves. And I know you've been on that path. You've come here today. This is your way of saying, hey, help me, I need help. That is so brave of you. And then finally, because they are adults, at some point, we cannot control how they act with us. We will have to let them go. However, because you're the mother, once a month or once in few weeks, I would send them that text or that letter saying, I miss you, I love you, I want to repair, I want to own my faults, I want to show up. If you can let me in, I will do anything to create that bond again. I see I've been wrong, I want to repair. Because they are adults, that's all you can do. But please do that every few weeks or so you are doing your part to remind them that you're ready to repair. You know, the effort to repair is so powerful. When they are willing to take it on, then that's on them, because now they are adults. So at some point, I tell many parents, you're not the only one, that they need to release their children. The two hardest things we have to do as adults is release our own parents and release our children. And that is so painful, but they are adults and they have a right to make their own choice for their own sanity. And as much as it hurts us, we cannot control them. So you now have to deal with your own pain and heal yourself. And they are adults and you have to release the cord. However, I will keep on saying that children typically do respond if they see the parent is very genuine, very honest, very transparent, and self-accounting. So if you keep taking accountability, if you keep saying, I take accountability, I am not making an excuse, I will not say but and if and when and then, I fully own it. And if they see that you are not blaming them and placing the blame on them, it's quite likely they will eventually melt. It may take time, but you cannot control that. So remove yourself from the victim role, put yourself in a position of empowerment, send them love, send them apology, send them accountability, and then you have to release them.
And will I know that it's never going to work? I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but
yeah, you can't give up hope. You can't give up.
They feel a freedom that, like, I don't have to deal with that anymore. I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about my parent and how they let me down. I'm wondering if I know you can't really speak to them, but I don't know, do they just feel free?
We all feel freedom from oppressive relationships. We all feel freedom from relationships where we weren't seen and heard. No one wants that kind of relationship. However, everyone yearns for a meaningful relationship with their parents. If the parent is healed, if the parent is taking accountability, no matter what, nothing is stopping you from saying you love them. Nothing can stop a mother's heart from loving their children and expressing it. You are never controlled in that way. So you have freedom as well. Send the texts, send the letters till you're blocked. Show and express that you miss them, you love them, without blame, without guilting them, and without whining and being a victim, right? Just pure love. I ask nothing in return. This is just to say I love my baby girl. I miss her. I adore her. I apologize again. When you're ready to let me in, I'll be here. That is a loving parent who doesn't expect anything, but can still love them. That doesn't need to control them, but can still express remorse and regret. I think that's a beautiful message, but expect nothing more. Because when you expect more, that is you putting your agenda on the situation and trying to control it. So I hope that gives you some direction. You can keep loving them through these texts and letters. Nobody can stop you from doing that.
That all makes sense. And I will do that. I have been doing that. But I guess you still want to, see, I use the word but. I still want some kind of response.
I
and
know.
It's like, do you send birthday gifts? Do you
Yes. Nothing should stop you from expressing your love. Do you have love? Yes. Is it unconditional? Yes. What does unconditional mean? Unconditional means without conditions. Your love is having a condition. I can do all that, but I want it back. But I want a thank you. But I want a relationship. The but is a condition. You are talking about unconditional mother love. Express it till the day you die, till you can. So keep doing it. Stop looking for something in return. That is unconditional love. I know.
Oh, that's great.
I know it's hard, but don't stop being you. If you have love, express it. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And I have a way to go. Now I have an avenue.
Yes.
And so I'm going to hope for the best.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, when our children grow up and become adults, we look back on all the mistakes that we made when they were younger. And many of us feel this utter sense of guilt and remorse and blame. We wish we could have done things differently. And then we try to control how we should have acted. And releasing the past becomes so difficult when we're trying to control how we should have been or how we could be tomorrow. And this living in the past never really helps any of us. So I always tell parents to really work hard to release all that guilt and that blame and that regret. I write in my book, The Parenting Map, these words that I think can provide solace for all of us who look back on our parenting and we cringe, wondering how on earth could we have been so unconscious. But this is the human path. This is the path of the humane parent, and we need to be compassionate with ourselves. So I write, when the voice of guilt, blame, or regret bubbles to the surface, remember to have compassion for yourself. Teach yourself to release judgment about all who you were not, and instead gently usher yourself into who you are right now. See yourself through the kind eyes of forgiveness and understand that you were a victim of circumstances and that back then you simply didn't know what you didn't know. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt, believing that had you had the tools, had you been more conscious, you would have acted differently, but you weren't conscious back then. With this approach to living, you can see the errors of your past as a gold mine rather than a landmine. You can now, in the present moment, alchemize your ego into essence and your mistakes into jewels. No matter how old your kids are, you can start on a new path in the present moment. And remember this: unconditional love means expressing your love, giving it freely without any conditions, without ifs and buts, giving it without expecting anything back in return. And let me tell you, every human on earth desires and craves unconditional love. So give it freely and without an agenda or an expectance of return. Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe. And if you would like to be a guest on this podcast, you can do so. Go to drshefali.com and click on the button that says podcast. And I will see you on the next episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.